this is part two of what we've discussed previously, no? So, um, last time, we've discussed about the state. Now, for this time, gaya nga na sinabi ko, we will discuss naman the different forms of government. Now, speaking of dun sa previous video, I posted there as an assignment yata yon na about the types of government. Now, forget about the assignment, no? I'll just put it in your ano lang kasi that's a part of your module as your activity. Now, let's proceed to the discussion, no? So, let's discuss the different forms of government. Okay. So, the government comprises the set of legal and political institutions that regulates the relationship among members of a society and between the society and the outsiders. Now, these institutions have the authority to make decisions for the society on the policies affecting the maintenance of order and the achievement of certain societal goals. Okay. So, itong lesson na to, it will provide you guys an overview of the types of government, no? The ways authority can be distributed, the distribution of the government, and the functions of the government. Separate articles deals with the origin and the development of the concept of the state, the theoretical and practical development, and the representation of law and the study of government. So, ito lesson na to, it will give you an overview kung ano yung pag-uusapan natin. Okay, so the power of a government over its own citizens vary depending on the degree to which it is free of limitations and restraint. So, the power of a government abroad also varies, no? Magkakaiba rin. Depending on the human and material resources with which it can support its foreign policy. Government range in size and scope from clans, tribes, and the shires of the early times to the superpowers and the international governments of today. So tingnan niyo, kung titingnan niyo, no, nag-e-evolve ang government from the time ng mga clans, which is no siguro early days of the humans until sa tribes, no, until civilizations, until it gave rise to the superpowers, no. Okay, until recent times, some governments were strong enough to establish empires that ruled not only their own people but other peoples and state across national, ethnic, and language boundaries. No? Pwede sila mag-establish. The present-day counterpart of the empire is the superpower that is able to lead or to dominate other countries through its superior military and economic strength. So, okay, medyo ano tayo ngayon. Can you identify which country is equivalent to a superpowered country? Okay? Okay. You have what? Let me see if you have the China, United States, Russia, and these three countries, especially if you include North Korea, then these are the superpowered nations that can trigger wars or either World War III or maybe some other issues. Now, okay. So the present-day counterpart of the empire is the superpower that is led to a dominate other countries through its superior military and economic strength. Now, within the modern nation state, now, the governments operate at many different levels ranging from villages to cities, countries, provinces, and state. So, now let's go now to the main lesson itself, no? The different forms of the government. Yung kanina, it's just an overview. Okay. First off, we have the monarchy. This is the oldest form of government. And also, not just the oldest form, but the most common form of government. Dating back from the ancient times to the early part of the 20th century, it was the monarchy, or ruled by the hereditary king or queen. So monarchy passes through the three basic stages, varying according to the nation and the political and the economic climate. So the first stage was the absolute monarchy, no? So absolute monarch. In the Christian part of the world during the Middle Ages, a conflict developed between two people and the kings who recognized his spiritual authority. The people wanted to expand the power of the church beyond spiritual matters to include the temporal realm. But the kings proclaimed that God had given them the right to rule. And by proclaiming this divine right, they were able to give legitimacy to their reign and limit the Pope's power. And then yung other one pala, hindi ko lang siya nasama dito, was the no, no. Okay. So there are two types of monarchy as I've discussed. You have first the absolute monarchy. Of course, you have King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. And of course, you have the constitutional monarchy, which is the second type of monarchy. And one great example of this one is Queen Elizabeth of the United Kingdom. Of course, when you say constitutional monarchy kasi, no, when you say constitutional monarchy, the Queen is the head of state. Siya yung head of state. But the head of the government is the Prime Minister. No? So, yun yung constitutional monarchy. Okay. Then you have the communism. Of course, this is first a political theory, but then it is a para naging form of government na rin siya. So in its purest form, no, communism refers to the idea of common public ownership of the economy, including infrastructure, utilities, and means of production. So, itong communist idea na to was idealized by the thinkers Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, denotes that an absence of class division which inherently requires the subversion of the class ruling by the working class. As such, communism often incorporates the idea of revolutionary actions against unequal rule. No? So, yun yung ano yan. Then, communism often positions itself as a counterpoint to the economic stratification underlying capitalism. So, basically, itong communism kasi, communist ideology, are opposed to the capitalist. No? So, parang gusto kasi ng communist ideology is equal rights for everyone. No? Pati property. Now, this resistance to stratification sometimes also takes the form of single state authority, one in which political opposition or dissidents may be restricted. This may manifest in some communist states as a more authoritarian form of governance, as typified by the Soviet branch of communism that swept the globe during the mid-20th century. So, here are some of the communist countries. You have the People's Republic of China, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which is the North Korea. Diba? Mag-best friends lang. Okay, you have the presidential system. It is a form of government in which the president is the chief of executive and elected directly by the people. In this system, all three branches, which is the executive, legislative, and judiciary, are constitutionally independent of each other, and no branch can dismiss or dissolve any other. The president is responsible for enforcing laws, the legislature for making them, and the courts for judging. Each is given specific powers to check and balance the other. So, countries that have presidential system, obviously, we have the United States of America, headed by, of course, Donald Trump. You have also, di rin tayong papahuli, syempre, the Philippines. Headed by, of course, His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Okay, parliamentary. A parliamentary system of government means that the executive branch of the government has a direct or indirect support from the parliament. This support is usually shown by the vote of confidence. That the relationship between the executive and the legislature is a parliamentary system is called responsible government. Now, the separation of powers between the executive and the lawmaking branches is not as obvious as it is in a presidential system. There are different ways of balancing powers between the three branches which governs the country, the executive or the ministers, and the lawmakers and the judges. So parliamentary systems usually had a head of government and a head of state. So they change often after their term are over. The head of the government is the prime minister who has the real power, and the head of state may be elected as president or in case of a constitutional monarchy, hereditary. So an example of the parliament leaders, we have, of course, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Then you have the republicanism. Republic, a form of government in which a state is ruled by the representative of the citizen body. Modern republics are founded on the idea that the sovereignty rests with the people, though who is included and excluded from the category of the people has varied across history. Because citizens do not govern the state themselves but through representative, republics may be distinguished from direct democracy through modern representative democracies are by and large republic. The term republic may also be applied to any form of government in which the head of state is not the hereditary monarch. Then you have the democracy. Now, democracy is a form of government in which all eligible citizens have equal say in the decision that affects their lives. Democracy allows people to participate in equally either directly or through elected representatives. Now, in this proposal, development and creation of laws, so it encompasses social, economic, and cultural conditions that enables the free and equal practice of the political self-determination. The term originates from the Greek word demokratia, which translates rule of the people. This term was used around 400 BCE to denote the political system then existing in Greek city-states, notably Athens. But sad to say, no, the democracy in terms of ideology kasi, ang democracy is the most used and abused um, political ideology. Why? Why is it used and abused? Kasi you say rule when you say democracy, it is the rule of the people. The people may have the say, no? Gaya din sa Pilipinas, we are in a democratic country. Everyone has what they say, no? Everyone has the right to what they say. Pero ngayon, with the suppression of the freedom of expression and speech, medyo kailangan din mag-ingat-ingat, no? Okay. Then you have totalitarianism. Totalitarianism, form of government that theoretically permits no individual freedom and that seeks to subordinate all aspects of individual life to the authority of the state. Italian dictator Benito Mussolini coined the term totalitario in the early 1920s to characterize new fascist state of Italy, which he further described as all within the state, none outside the state, none against the state. By the beginning of the World War II, totalitarian had become synonymous with absolute, oppressive, single-party government. So we have here some totalitarian leaders like excuse me, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, both of whom are the most ruthless leaders in history. Imagine, imagine if kung sa generation natin nabuhay itong dalawang to, what would happen to the world? Of course, within just an instant, wala na, finish na. Okay, Moving on. Dictatorship. Dictatorship form of government in which one person or small group possesses absolute power without effective constitutional limitations. The term dictatorship comes from the Latin word dictator, which in the Roman Republic designated a temporary magistrate who was granted extraordinary powers in order to deal with the state crisis. Modern dictators, however, resembled ancient tyrants rather than ancient dictators. Ancient philosophers' description of tyrannies of Greece and Sicily go far towards characterizing modern dictatorship. Dictators usually resort to force or fraud to gain despotic political power. No? Ulitin ko lang ulit. Dictators usually resort to force or fraud to gain despotic political power, which they maintain through the use of intimidation, terror, and suppression of basic civil liberties. They may also employ techniques of mass propaganda in order to sustain their public support. Okay, some of the few dictators. We have Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, and of course, Saddam Hussein of Iraq. Now, if you're looking for the two persons here, two persons in the Philippines, they're not here. Hindi ko sila sinama dito kasi this would be quite controversial already. No? At least give them some respect kahit na paano they are called dictators na rin in some sort of way. Okay, federalism. Now, before I discuss this, this is now the proposal of the Philippine government, no? Headed by our president, His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, na to push forward with the federalism. Now, in everyone's mind, ano nga ba federalism? Paano nga ba ito makakatulong sa atin? So, let me just explain this one briefly. Now, federal system also includes autonomous local governments such as county governments and municipal governments in cities, boroughs, townships, and villages. Local government may stand in relationship to their state government that corresponds to the state to that of state governments with the national government. The citizens in each jurisdiction elect may many of the public officials. In addition, certain special districts exist with a single function such as education or sanitation and have their own elected officials. Okay, now the federalism in the Philippines is now pushing through, no? Although hindi lang natin siya gaano na papakiramdaman ngayon kasi we are still under the pandemic and other issues na mas inuuna pa kaysa sa pandemics. Ganito kasi yun, no? Although the government is still planning for federalism, although hindi pa siya ganong nare-recognize. Now, in federalism form of government, you have the national government, which is, and then you have the counties or the states itself, no? Like states, iba't ibang ano. Gaya din sa Amerika. Actually, America is a federal government, no? You have the national government and then you have the local government. In which now local government, they have elected their own senators or own congressmen, and then sila self-ruling na ang ano no, yung central power nasa Malacanang or nasa Manila will be distributed in each of the provinces, including the budget. Para lalaman. For example, isang estado ang Region 3. Iisa lang ang pwede maging representative nila. Hindi tayo magkakanya-kanya. Sabihin natin, marami tayong lugar dito sa Pilipinas. So, by regions na yan. Okay, so, basically, yun yung just a simple glimpse of the federalism in the Philippines. Now, to cap off this discussion, the forms of government depends on how the state should be, no? So, kanya-kanyang diskarte din yan kasi when it comes to the government functions. Now, um, for the next lesson, we will be discussing naman the international level, no? Kasi if we talk about politics, constitutions, that would be a different story. So, yun lang ang discussion for today. And we will see you on the next video, which is um, we will talk about the international organizations and the United Nations. So I'll see you on the next video.